It sounds like there's someone in between the walls.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2019 horror film Dark Light. The film is directed and written by Pegrid Reynolds and it stars Jessica Marsden, Opal Littleton, Ed Brody, Christina Clifford and Jared Tyler. Now the film focuses on Jessica Marsden's character Annie, who has separated or split with her husband, divorced her husband, and she has to, with her young daughter, Emily, move back to her old family house that she grew up in, which is way out in the middle of nowhere, basically. So she moves back into this house. Soon after moving back in, strange events start happening, strange lights. It feels like there's something sinister in the house, something living in the walls. That feels like it is coming for her daughter, so she has to take drastic action to keep her daughter safe. Right, what are my thoughts on Dark Light? Well, this is a film that has kind of been on my watch list for a while now. It's a film I was kind of aware of in the back of my mind, but I knew it wasn't like a really well thought of film or anything like that, and it was always something that I'd intended to watch at some point. And I don't know how, but I think recently, in the last couple of weeks, I kind of saw the trailer for this again on YouTube, and I thought I'll give this one a go again. And while this film is in many ways pretty generic and fairly disappointing, there's also some good ideas going on in this film as well. But I think ultimately it's the execution of it all kind of lets it down. Now I think the premise is sound here, you know what I mean? Mother and young daughter moving into a house on their own. It's an old family house. It carries many secrets. It's I don't know why anyone would want to move there. I mean, it was literally in the middle of nowhere. And it didn't look in particularly good shape and all that kind of stuff. But it did seem like she didn't have much of a choice after a divorce, sort of thing. And it's one of those films, after the first couple of nights, all this stuff starts happening. You're kind of like, I'd rather go and live in a bus shelter than that house. You know what I mean? You would get yourself and your family out of there, sort of thing. But no, it's one of those films where they kind of walk around with flashlights trying to find things that, that no normal person would. Even if I had, a shotgun in my hands and, I don't know, armed men either side of me, I wouldn't go investigating some of the things that were happening in this house, but she decides to do it. So it is one of those films where you kind of roll your eyes a little bit and a bit like nobody would behave that way, but it's a movie, I suppose, and they want to kind of try and creep you out. And there are some moments in this film where it will kind of creep you out. And I think the real strength of this film, in the early parts of the film, is the mystery of what's happening. Is it something supernatural? Is it something beastly? Is it a creature? Is it extraterrestrials? Is it is this a sci-fi thing? And while you're waiting for those answers, the answers you get are a bit like, what? Is that it? And it's one of those films as well where there's a convenient expert that kind of lives as it would seem very, very close by, because she keeps he and she, this expert, can flip between each locations very, very quickly, it would seem. So yeah, she kind of discovers this expert that seems to know what's going on, has a chat with him, and then they're all back and forth. So it's one of those films that's got these conveniences going on in there as well. So if you actually look at how this film is listed on IMDb, you've got action, horror, mystery, sci-fi, thriller. It doesn't know what it is. And while you think there might be some sci-fi elements here, it doesn't explain itself well enough for you to walk away thinking, oh, that's what it was then. That's, to me, not how it presented. How it presented what was going on was something far different and much less impressive, I think it's fair to say. Which I thought was a real shame, because I did think there were some good ideas going on in this film. I thought the setup was interesting, because kind of the first thing you see is, or the story up to a point is told in flashbacks by her being interviewed at a police station, sort of thing. And it's done reasonably well in the sense of you're interested. Okay, I want to know what's going on here, and you are on the mother's side for the most part here as well, because you know you want her to get a daughter back and things like that. And I will say as well, I thought the effects for the creatures in this film were really quite good. They were well lit. I suspect if you looked up close to them in good light, it would probably just look like a guy in a suit. But they looked interesting and they looked different to me. They looked like a combination of something science fiction related, but also something a little bit more humanoid and grounded and a bit more connected to a creature feature, so to speak. So I thought the effects were decent here, and I thought the premise was decent, but it was unfortunately one of those films where it gets to a certain point and your interest is gone because it kind of goes down this generic route, you know what I mean? That it's almost like it kind of gives up and thinks, oh, well, we'll do this then to finish the film. It doesn't really know exactly how to finish this film, and it doesn't explain itself well enough for you to be engaged and, you know, interested in the conclusion of the film, if you like. So I think it's hard to categorise this film. Is it a creature feature? Is it something else? Again, I couldn't really honestly tell you because the film doesn't explain itself well enough. So, while I don't think this film was a disaster, I do think there was some interesting stuff going in it. I thought the performances were all fine. I thought the effects were good. I thought it was actually well filmed and, you know, well lit and creepy at times. I just think ultimately the conclusion and the execution lets the film down. And this had the potential, I think, to be maybe a 7 out of 10, but ultimately I just wasn't keen on the conclusion of the film, which is why it's got a 5 out of 10. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.